Hello and welcome back to OCD Coded. I'm Erin Brown, licensed marriage and family therapist and mental health counselor. I have OCD myself, and my goal with this is to help you learn how to turn your OCD into a superpower. So today we are talking about eating disorders and OCD. And the more I learn about both, the more I think they're very similar, if not quite the same thing. And it's really recognizing how much that plays into an eating disorder is the obsession and compulsion part of it. The fear, like with OCD, it's a fear-based, it's a doubt-based disease. And so it's almost like the more fearful I am and the more doubtful I am, almost the more I'm sure it's OCD, the more urgent the feeling feels, especially if I'm not in an urgent situation in the moment, then it's that helps me to start to notice what those are. But with eating disorders, the fear of it is, that like, am I gaining weight is a common one. Do I look different than the way other people see me? Like, do I see myself differently than the way other people see me? And that kind of obsession with that kind of fear and how body dysmorphia is such a part of OCD too, and that obsession with my body doesn't look right. Something's wrong. This part's just not right. And over focus on one part of our body to not be able to look at the body as a whole or the whole, just be over focused or just seeing it totally different, just being so sure that the way our brain is showing us the picture of us in the mirror is that feels like reality when that becomes so hard because it's like, well, then what's real? And if OCD is fear and doubt, then how do we know? And so much of it is about how to recenter, and it's practicing the pause. I have that whole webinar about it. I just really think that's such a foundational skill about it all. But it's realizing, with eating disorders, it's such a huge part of it, whether it's, anorexia, which is the restriction, which is the not eating, the if I eat this apple, I'm going to gain weight and I'm going to be fat, that's a sign like that fits both eating disorders and OCD of how that plays out and that fear. And then with bulimia is, the kind of binging and purging, whether that's with exercise or with food. And that was something that I didn't really understand until I became a therapist was that, and in laxatives is another one, but it's, that whole idea that anything we're doing like that, there's this an obsession with I can't, or I want, and then giving in and doing and then feeling bad and feeling shame and then whatever compulsion to try and get rid of that shame, and usually the food also with an eating disorder in whatever way that the person is able to find that fits that obsession and compulsion for them and seems to ease it so temporarily. And that's the whole thing with OCD and with eating disorders is the shame cycle that happens. The the obsession, and I talk about it, that urgency of, that people describe it as itchy or like electricity in their body. It just feels like if I don't do something now, something bad's going to happen. And, it's just more and more, it becomes harder and harder. Like the first few times are maybe easier to be like, no, I'm not going to do that. Or, oh, I'm going to try and think about something else. But the more that intrusive thought comes, the harder it is to battle it. And it feels just exhausting. Like I've been battling this intrusive thought all day long, whether it's, I want to eat that, I want to eat that, I want to eat that. And so I spend all day not eating that thing. And then whatever it is. And then I feel it to the point where then I give in that one time, and I can't remember now all the times that I was able to resist. It's just the shame of that giving in and that feeling of that, that perfectionism again. And then the shame cycle repeats. And that so much of the antidote to all of this is having to accept that we're not perfect. And OCD doesn't like that because OCD wants a certainty. And it really feels like if I'm perfect, then things will be okay. I won't be abandoned. If I'm perfect, I won't be rejected or abandoned and everything will be okay. If I'm perfect, then I can control what's happening. Essentially, like if I'm good, if I'm perfect, if I'm right, then if I do everything right, then everything will turn out all right. And that's the part of it that is the illusion that OCD makes so very tempting and makes feel so very real when it's not, that's not the the way to get peace. And how it feels like going around in those circles just feels never ending. And so it's recognizing with eating disorders of how similar it is with the fear And that what as it is with an eating disorder or OCD, you can really treat a lot of the same way. Like, and to have an aside, the eating disorders are a very serious thing. They're one of the leading cause of death with mental illness because of how severe they can get with the restricting food or with the binging and purging, whatever method they're using. And so, like, it's not to, I don't, it's definitely take it seriously, talk to your doctor, all of that kind of stuff. But that it's also a part of that recovery process is looking at your fear, that what is your deep fear? Can I look at that? Can I walk toward that fear and just start trying to respond to it differently? That before I've had this fear of, oh my God, I'm going to get fat if I eat this thing. And so because of that fear, I either don't eat the thing or I eat it and then try and throw it up, and the point of it would be that we can start to be like, okay, like what was the fear? And that how can I address this fear differently? How can I look at this in this way? And of honoring that these fears are real. Like we're not trying to dismiss the fears or be like, oh, just get over it or, oh, it's going to be fine. Really that kind of, I like the term toxic positivity with it, where it's just like, oh, it's fine, everything's fine. And that like, yes, we want to believe that ultimately we will prevail, that we will be okay, but also that it's okay not to be okay. And I think that's a huge part of breaking that cycle of OCD with being able to, just be able to be like, it's okay to not be okay, that it's okay to be me, that it's okay to feel whatever I'm feeling. And if I can start from that place, it really helps me to move through it differently, that it can feel so lonely and isolating with both OCD and eating disorders. And that I've eating disorders are something that I've struggled with also, and is still hard for me to talk about at times, and feels like, as a therapist, that I should know how to do everything perfectly and that I should already know how to do it right and that I shouldn't have any struggles. But I also think it's important to share those and to talk about it, that, one of the secrets I've learned in being a therapist is nobody knows what they're doing. And, that we're all kind of bumbling around on the earth, just trying to figure it all out. And if we can move into that place, it makes it a lot easier instead of thinking like everyone else has this secret that I don't have or knows the way to do life that I don't know. But that, to really how to come back home to our hearts is what I think about too. And that fear and doubt and all of those things that OCD brings and that eating disorders bring, and how it did. Like I really experienced that shame cycle firsthand. And that, that obsession, like, and that my fear tends to be I'm not enough. I'm not good enough. It's like my deep fear that no matter how much I work on of being like, intellectually, I know I'm enough and all of the things that I still am like, you know, um, it doesn't, there's a part of me that doesn't, feel that way. And the how I continue to work on that and love that part, even if, it doesn't feel enough still, and be able to really work on that. But like again, if I can address that fear of not being enough differently, then it starts to really change the whole dynamic and that whole shame fear cycle that, if my fear is not enough and I think, oh, if maybe I'm skinny, I'll be enough, or if maybe I do this, I'll be enough, or maybe I'll do that, but it took me a while to walk down that fear ladder to be able to get to that point of it. And but that, like we can also spend so much time trying to figure out what's wrong with us. And that a big part of this recovery or healing process is that there's nothing wrong with us, that like to not come at it from something is wrong with us, but more of a this is this is something I have. This is a feature that has I'm not using to its best ability. Like I'm trying to use a mouse for something. That's not even a good analogy anymore. I feel it's making me sound so dated. Talking about a mouse on a computer, my gosh. But that like trying to find some way of saying like you're using some piece of equipment for some way it's not intended, and that's so much about it with OCD too, that like it's that OCD is trying to help, that it thinks it's helping, and so that if we can learn how the ways that it thinks it's helping and then learn how to use it to the best of its ability, then it can really be this tool that brings a lot of peace and a lot of fulfillment in different ways without that shame and blame cycle. And so we will definitely continue talking more about this in ways that you can break those cycles for yourself. And please let me know if you have any questions about it, or about anything with this, if you're struggling with it, you know, um, please, like as always, making sure to, talk to your doctor, talk to your therapist. It's definitely recommended, and that these, videos are more about how to give little insights and supports, but that they are not in the replace of any of those. But it's just to help you know you are not alone, and that there is hope, and that there are ways through, and that you are not broken, and there is nothing wrong with you, and you can do this, and I believe in you. And so until next time, I wish you the best and in all of your adventures. See you soon.